Okay, Ask an Innovator fans, big show. We got some big time guests here. Welcome, super happy to have you. I'm gonna drop a Robert Kennedy quote right off the bat. He said, lawyers have their duties as citizens, but they also have special duties as lawyers. Believe it or not, their obligations go far deeper than earning a living as specialists in corporate tax or personal injury law. They have a continuing responsibility to provide and uphold fundamental principles of justice from which the law cannot depart. Now, okay, that was Robert Kennedy. Here I go right now. These two champions of innovation across from me, Duncan Macgillivray and Peter White of White Macgillivray Leicester at 1 Cumberland Street, South, Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, have departed from the norm. They participated in a selfless act and continued the responsibility contributing to the pulse of our community. They opened an appropriately dutiful Art Deco personal injury law practice downtown, bringing with it a pirate's booty of revenue, life, and identity. Peter and Duncan, thank you for being on the show. You could be anywhere in the world today, run your practice anywhere in the world, and you are downtown Thunder Bay, PA. What the heck? Why are you downtown running this great practice?
Well, actually, we're pretty happy being down there, there's no question of that. But how that came about initially was we were leaving a law firm that was in the intercity area, and we just went through some due diligence when we were looking at what was available in town. We basically looked at every office building that was an appropriate size. We had a broker helping us with that, and chose a couple that were both out of the intercity area. Some of that was economically driven. The price there was several times what we ended up paying for once we moved downtown. And we basically just went through this process of elimination, came down to 3 or 4, I think, buildings that were really in the running for it. And then I think without having actually said so to each other, we were all kind of partially moving towards the one that we ended up in at the corner of Cumberland Street and Red River Road.
It is a beautiful, beautiful location. One of the things that we love to talk about so much on the show is the pulse, the lifeblood. We love to talk about Thunder Bay being a world-class city. We talked a lot in past episodes with kind of connected political people on the show about this hashtag raise the roof, some of the issues with Victoriaville. Rip the roof off, we'll have a new Fort William. You decided on downtown Port Arthur. Are you, Duncan, are you contributing to the lifeblood? Are you contributing to the economy of downtown?
Well, I hope so. I mean, it's so much more lively down there. If you work in inner city area, you're looking at cars, you're looking at street, you don't see actual people walking around. Downtown Port Arthur, every time you look out the window, you either have a view of people and the life of the city, or you have a view of the beautiful harbor.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing place to be. You've got coffee shops, you've got restaurants, you've got more and more businesses coming down there. So it's much more lively, and it's a great place to work.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and just in the day-to-day of your lives, I mean, when you're not with clients, you can grab a nice coffee around the corner. There's a gelato.
Gelato's a big draw.
Gelato's a big part. Was a big draw, right? Yeah.
Ask our staff.
You're right. I'm sure. Now you were there before the gelato, which is kitty corner to you. So did you beckon them to come, or was that just a convenience of being downtown?
No, I'm not sure that we were there before them.
It was right around the same time.
Similar timing.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we didn't have that discussion beforehand. But
right.
We were
It
definitely.
wasn't in the lease.
No, it's in all of our staff contracts.
Right, staff contracts. I'll only work here if the gelato place stays solid.
No, we were well aware of the evolving vibe in downtown. That was a big draw for us. I grew up not far from downtown Port Arthur. We're not down there for business reasons, only to draw from Port Arthur, certainly. I mean, our area is basically geographical northwestern Ontario.
Sure.
We have clients right from the Manitoba border all the way, in southern Ontario even. But as I said, well aware of the vibe. It's gentrifying a bit. There's been a whole changeover that's happening. Lots of excitement and buzz about eateries, especially that have opened up over the past years.
Yeah,
and
we often say that.
You'll be well aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You often say that gentrification, really, food happens first because food is such a primal. Without food, you die. So restaurants, innovation, and gentrification happens first in restaurants, and then we attract fancy, kind of big-minded, big mindset lawyers soon after.
And we saw that happening, and we're there instead of watching it from the outside. Let's go down and be a part of it.
Yeah.
So that was, part and parcel of that overall decision.
Right. So your venue is fantastic. I've eyed it from afar. Yesterday we had a quick meeting before the show, and I walked in, and wow. People watching this, how would you feel if after the show people were knocking on your door saying, "Hey, can I just take a look at the space you designed?"
Quite happy.
Yeah.
Quite happy. to.
$2 per ticket entrance fee? Or?
There's no entrance fee. No, I mean, people can come right in. I mean, we've had urban infill there, and I've had live art in our lobby. Because it's meant to be a welcoming space, and it's meant to be a community space, right? So, I mean, that's the point. We want it to not look like a law firm.
Yeah.
We want it to be as welcoming as possible for people who are, at a difficult point in their life coming to see us, but to feel welcomed and to feel, happy in our lobby.
Yeah. To describe the space is kind of like Thunder Bay, true Northwestern Ontario, northern chic. You have some kind of Morrisseau influences in terms of your art. First Nations, Indigenous influence as well. Understanding that community is a big, understanding it's a big scope of your practice.
Sure, it's a growing demographic, and but we don't, differentiate in that sense at all. We're interested in representing people who have been injured. We're injury lawyers, people who are having issues with insurance companies, disability claims, that sort of thing. So it could be anybody from any demographic group. That said, we definitely do have a lot of Indigenous clients, and happily so. And we've had some good feedback from them. A lot of the art, as you've suggested, in our lobby is local woodland style art. We've got in particular one young fellow, Kevin Belmore, who's done some work for us, and we've actually commissioned it from him. All the other art in our lobby is local as well. So
that's amazing.
And in fact, I've made an arrangement with another young artist. We're going to do a revolving exhibit of her work over the next few months.
Yeah. We have on the show often a lot of artists. It's about innovation. Rarely do we have the opportunity to really attract lawyers, to be honest with you. I mean, we look at innovation as art and art as innovation, and here you are, and we've spent the whole first segment talking about art. You have a bonfire in your lobby.
A bonfire and a canoe.
A canoe.
A local canoe, Peter's canoe.
Yeah, a local canoe in your lobby. Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, and you brought designers in to execute on the space from Vancouver.
Yeah, I had some connections out there. I lived in the West Coast for 10 years, and my wife's from out there. So I knew of these folks who were very well recommended, had some very high-end clients. I've mentioned yesterday to you some of them. So we brought them here and had them stay in Thunder Bay for a couple of days and experience the city, experience us, get to know us, sort of hunkered down in my living room for a couple of days and plumbed each other's souls, in a way, and that allowed them to really see what we wanted to do, where we were going, and we also took their advice about what they saw as objective, independent people who had never been to Thunder Bay, and gave us advice about how to or what they saw in terms of branding.
Yeah, it was important to both sides. Designers, hotshot designers from Vancouver coming into Thunder Bay, it was important that you infused them with the culture, the tapestry of what makes this community unique before they went ahead and built out your space.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big part of it, and we wanted them to experience the actual city as well. They stayed at the Prince Arthur when they were here, so they were living downtown. And they were struck by it. They hadn't experienced before.
They'd never been to Thunder Bay before.
No. Yeah. So what they saw infused, where they were going with their advice to us.
And I mean, they had to figure out what makes us tick, and what makes us tick is Thunder Bay. So they had to kind of get to know Thunder Bay in order to really get to know us.
Great, perfect segue. We're going to go to commercial. Ask an Innovator. We're ticking. We're talking. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about the business side of running something totally innovative in Thunder Bay. Be right back. Stay with us. Thank you. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator. We are going to dive into what makes business people tick. We talked about tick, we talked about talk. Sometimes you have to walk the walk. Walking the walk, really, we believe, is about taking care of yourself, personal development, mindset, these types of things. Gentlemen, Duncan, what do you do to take care of your body? What do you do to take care of your mind to get through a day?
I think there has to be a balance. I mean, in any sort of business, in any sort of work, there's going to be certain levels of stress. And the way to combat that stress is to have the balance and actually take care of your body. So, I mean, I go to the gym quite frequently. That's where I met you and where I see you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really, really important to me. If I'm not going to the gym, I find that my mind is not working at an optimal rate.
Yeah. And is it the chicken or the egg? Is it the gym first and then the mind, or is it the mind first and then the gym?
That's a good question. I mean, timing-wise, I like the gym first and then the mind. So I get it done and get it over with, and can move on with my day and go to work, and then go home and spend time with the family and the kids and that sort of thing, and not have to worry about going back to the gym.
Yeah.
So temporarily, it's gym first and work second.
Okay, I'm curious to hear what Peter has to say before we go there. You lift weights. Now, do you choose to lift weights over, say, cardiovascular style exercises like cycling, say, running, cross-country skiing, and why?
Yep. I hate cardio.
Right.
Because I was a fat kid growing up, and I didn't like running or doing any of that sort of thing. So I like lifting weights.
Yeah.
Peter's, more of the exact opposite probably, but I like lifting weights. I find that the strain on the body and the focus on having to lift the weights, I find that gets me going, that gets my brain going, that gets me focused, gets me ready for the
kind of the analogy of failure. I mean, when we're going to, Peter, I'm curious to see what you have to say, but just before we go there, it's kind of the idea of failure, acceptance of failure. Going to the gym and lifting a weight is really, it's an exercise of failure. That last rep is rep to fail, and it's a metaphor for maybe challenges we may have in business. I tend to connect with that.
Exactly. I mean, the weight could just crush you and kill you.
Right, wear a mouth guard. Mindset, exercise, chicken or the egg? Do you approach the mind first, or do you approach the body to kind of find that serenity and that pace throughout your day, being sharp for your clients, being sharp for your family?
Well, it's sort of trite to say, but it is a balance, and it fluctuates all the time. I mean, you have extra demands at work or family or whatever that fluctuate, and sometimes you have to focus on them. So your personal health can suffer on a relative basis, but you've always got to tend to it. And I've had the good fortune, especially when I got into this business, a couple of much wiser older lawyers told me, one of them said that the law is a jealous mistress and you've got to be careful about that. And the other one was basically my first mentor, who I moved to Thunder Bay to work with. J.D. Young was his name, and he said to me before I'd even started, he sat me down and gave me a pretty good lecture about needing to balance everything. You've got to, and it included community commitments, just touching on what we said earlier. He was a community guy, and he says, you're going to have to address that, and you're going to want to do it, and you need to make that happen. Your own health, your family, your work, everything. So it was basically a checklist, and don't ever let one of them get ignored for too long. So I had that benefit. Personally, actually starting out, I got interested in sports a little bit late. I was sort of approaching 20. But I realized at that point, if you're going to do anything in it, that's the time to do it, rather than 50 years old. So I was a bit recalcitrant in my 20s and early 30s, to be honest with you, about dealing with the work and educational side of things, and sort of wandered around a bunch of schools to support my athletic endeavors. But coming back, once I'm married and raising kids and have a day job, this job's pretty demanding. So you have to just make a commitment as much as you can to get out and do something for yourself health-wise.
You look like a runner, maybe a cross-country skier, a cyclist.
Well, I've done all of those things, and as Duncan,
all the above, all the painful stuff, all the stuff that we don't do.
Well, the corollary to that is I've probably not been all that good at any of them, but
well, I think you're doing all right.
No, my main sport was actually rowing, and I did do fairly well in that. But that's ultimately an aerobic sport, and I ran track and swimming at university, things like that. So it was. I'm just more naturally an aerobic kind of guy. I was a bit of an aerobic junkie, but I was also much of a gym rat. I was a bit obsessive, I suppose, back in the day, and I've lifted a lot of weights over the years that you won't notice in my scrawny body today.
I think you're all right.
Pound for pound, the strongest 160-pounder you're going to find.
Pound for pound, that's what matters. That's right, weighted ratio. Let's build on something that you said, which I think was neat, about you talked about work-life balance. You said the law is a jealous mistress. You had a mentor, it sounded like, that helped you prioritize that potential relationship, that potential, say, defect of character that can develop being addicted to our work. Mentorship, is it important? Duncan, have you had mentorship in your life?
Extremely important. Extremely important. I mean, and Peter's right. I mean, there is a certain type of lawyer, especially in Southern Ontario, who will have to stay in the office for 15 hours a day, billable hours. There's no work-life balance.
Right.
Their work-life balance is, getting a call from their nanny saying that, their kids have went to soccer and it was a good soccer game.
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine not being able to be at my kids' hockey games, soccer games, dance recitals, that sort of thing. That's so important. That brings quality to life. So you have to have those mentors that will show you, there is a way to practice law and do well practicing law, while also having a family life and while also taking care of your body. So mentorship is super important in that regard.
Yeah. Do you find that in Thunder Bay, do you think we have a formal mentorship environment, a culture of formal mentorship? If there was the new would-be entrepreneur and they were seeking mentorship, where might they go?
I mean, in law, there certainly is. We have one of the closest, most collegial bars in Ontario.
Wow, right here in Thunder Bay?
Right here in Thunder Bay.
Wow.
I mean, the lawyers tend to
amazing.
really all get along, and the older lawyers tend to do a great job, I think, of mentoring younger lawyers
Yeah.
at firms, and then also just at social events. I mean, we play on a hockey team together, and our hockey team ranges from 25-year-old kids that are just finishing law school to 70-year-old guys who have had long careers as lawyers, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of mentorship involved with lawyers in Thunder Bay.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Mentorship is important to you, Peter?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, dumb guy, right? You start off, you think you know everything, like
Sure.
everybody else when
Yeah.
you're 20 years
Right.
old.
Right.
And
Put me on the list.
All of us, sure. So the more you can get of that, the better. I've had lots of great mentors over my career. Duncan and I both benefited from a fellow named Chris Knutson at our former firm, who's very well respected and happy to share his time.
Yeah, wow.
So, and a lot of people have benefited in a like fashion. So, yeah, it's a good collegial bar up here. The judges who travel around the province will tell you that. I started off at, I think it was probably the second biggest firm in Canada at the time I was there in Toronto. And as Duncan said, I'm sitting there one night, it was the 15th night in a row, you're there at 11 p.m. and I'm talking to my then supervisor and why do you do all this? He says, well, it's for my family. And he hadn't seen his family in 3 weeks.
Huh.
He gets up on the GO train at 5 a.m. to get into town, and he's there at 11 o'clock at night. Often just sleeps on a couch at work, the old proverbial
Right.
thing. But even when
Yeah.
he goes home, he's getting 5 hours of sleep and back on the train. So
Amazing.
that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Nor does it work in Thunder Bay. I mean, that's why Thunder Bay is the best place to practice.
No.
It doesn't
that-
work in Thunder Bay. And when I moved to Thunder Bay 4.5 years ago from Toronto, and I'm accustomed to working on a Sunday and working late. I was texting people on Sundays, and they're texting me back saying, "Hey, we don't do this here. You need to
Relax, Cole.
Yeah, really. We're going to throw to commercial right now. We're going to be back with these gentlemen right here. Peter and Duncan, I think, are doing a heck of a job laying out what it's like to innovate in this fantastic community that we have, opening up a central, iconic practice downtown Port Arthur. We're going to come back. We're going to dive a little bit deeper and maybe into some of the how money works in the financial world, how money works maybe in the entrepreneur world, what it takes to open up a business, and some of the challenges that they may be able to provide you mentorship right now. Be right back. Thank you. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator, one of my all-time favorite questions. I'm guilty of asking this question late in the show. We're going to give it a full 8 minutes to talk about entrepreneurship, business, innovation, like their location at 1 Cumberland Street South being kind of the lifeblood, the pulse, the heartbeat of downtown. Innovation is the heartbeat of any community. Innovation, entrepreneurship, small business, let's call it, is the heartbeat of any community in any center. Gentlemen, we'll go with you, Peter, first. The would-be entrepreneur, the person sitting behind a desk, on their couch, great idea, courage and fear colliding. What advice would you give to that would-be entrepreneur to get off that couch, to get up from behind that desk and go and face that fear, summon the courage to go and open up a business?
Well, some of the things are sort of general. When we started our business, it's been years gelling. To start this didn't happen in 5 minutes. But I think ultimately, if you're going to do something that scares you a little bit, that's probably a good thing, because it's going to mean you need to get out of your comfort zone. And growth, by definition, is painful. There's some pain involved in any growth. So you've got to get out of that comfort zone. And I think if you want to help yourself get over that hump, go and talk to people who have done it.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to a single person in my life, an entrepreneur, who's gone out and made that leap and regretted it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of late in my career to be making this sort of a change. We talked about that. But if I die tomorrow, I'm going to be happy as a lark that I did something, and I got out of my chair. I was a little bit in the doldrums, frankly, after doing the same thing for 15 years in my last position. So this has just put a ton of wind in my sails. And I know that everybody I've spoken to would tell you the same thing. You don't know until you try it. And once you try it, there are so many people I've spoken to, they say, yeah, I wish I did it 10 years earlier.
Right.
So that's one encouragement.
No looking back.
That's one encouragement. Go and talk to other people who have done it. And again, you'll find people willing to talk to you.
Sure.
I've never approached anybody who's said, no, I don't have the time for you. They all talk to me, and they'll give you advice. And if you do it enough, it's basically research, and you do it enough, and you'll say, yeah, I can do this. And away you go.
It's amazing the power of help and an opinion. People love to help and they love to give an opinion. If you just ask for both, you're likely going to get it.
And it's all here. You don't have to go very far. Maybe the coffee shop on your corner is far enough. It's all here in Thunder Bay. You can look outward if you like. There's life coaches and things that you can access online now. There's a whole variety of resources, but I would start with, if you have an idea, then go and talk to people, especially in the field, learn more about what it's going to take to get there. Do some research, talk to people in the financial and investment sector to figure out what you're going to need financially for it and how to get there. And it just starts snowballing. Once you make that first step, if you're motivated, if you believe in your idea, it'll happen.
Amazing. Duncan?
Yeah, the best way to force yourself to do it is to be really, really prepared, so you feel more comfortable doing it. You're always going to be somewhat freaked out trying something new.
Should be.
You should be, yeah, exactly. But it should be exciting too, right? If you're prepared, you're going to feel a lot better going into it. So, for us, there was a lot of preparation that went into starting a law firm. We had all been at a law firm that we were at, which was a great law firm, and we had been there for years. But it came to a certain point where we were all ready in our personal lives to do something new, do something different. And for us to get there was a lot of preparation about what's this business going to look like? How's it going to be financed? How's it going to be marketed? How are we going to set it up with staff and everything else? So once you have that preparation done, then it does make it somewhat easier, but it's still a big leap.
And what was the period of time, we talked about this briefly on the break, the period of time before kind of idea and execution, fruition?
The initial kind of gestation of the idea was probably about 4 or 5 years before we even left our previous firm. Me and Peter were driving back from Minneapolis on a trip, and we started talking about, what are our lives going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years?
Right.
And Peter's a few years older than me, sort of thing, but we both kind of had this similar vision for 5 years from now, maybe it should look like this, and maybe there's some other things that we can do that we'd like to go out and try and do in our careers. So from there, you're just kind of gradually building, sort of thing. We met our other partner Dan kind of in that period, and we realized that he had kind of a similar view of the future and what he wanted to do. And as you're kind of pulling everything together, then you're kind of focusing in on the more detailed things, like banking, financing, marketing, all that other sort of stuff that you have to start planning.
5-year increment is a big number. 5, 10, 15 years in business. We're always it's kind of business 101 is have a 5-year plan, see it through. Be long in your thinking and your mindset. And 5 years for a lot of people but people forget that 5 years is happening whether we like it or not. If you're engaged in this life, 80,000 seconds in a day is going to just kind of repeating it. What are you doing about it today? This is the mindset that you guys both mentioned something, listening to both of your opinions on this topic. I heard something about financial literacy, something that's been lately near and dear to my heart. Having a plan, doing the creative side is great, and you built out this amazing office. We talked about how beautiful, how Art Deco. that it is. But you have to have a financial plan. We talked about mentorship, having a financial mentor. Again, I mean, I personally believe that's something that Thunder Bay needs a little bit more of. How do you feel about the level of financial literacy that we have in our community? Duncan, go ahead.
I think that some people have it and some people don't. And I think that you have to really, really work at it. I mean, one of the biggest jobs for us starting a law firm was figuring out the financial side of it. And I mean, none of us are corporate lawyers.
Right.
I mean, we're personal injury lawyers.
I love, but everyone thinks lawyers are just brilliant people anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love that vulnerability.
Yeah, I mean,
good for you.
yeah, I mean, I have a general arts degree, I have a poli-sci degree, and I went to
Yeah.
law school, right? I mean, I stopped taking math in grade 10 or something like that, probably. I probably copied off my engineer buddies back then. But you have to figure it out, right? 'Cause I mean, when you're going to a bank and saying, "Bank, will you please, give us a line of credit for this, give us a mortgage for this," you need to be able to present it. So you need to be able to get into the numbers and actually figure out how to explain those numbers to the bank. I mean, it's one thing to understand the practice of law, but you have to be able to understand how to translate that into the dollars and cents. Otherwise, the bank's not going to touch you.
Amazing.
And it was interesting at first, just leading out of that. I mean, we approached the major banks locally and a couple of not so major, and it was an interesting response. There was quite a varied reaction to what we were trying to do because we're a new operation.
Yeah.
And we had effectively been a department, over at our previous firm. And our billing cycle is very cyclical, because we work on a contingency fee basis, which means you don't get paid until a file is resolved, whether it's settlement or in court. And that can be anywhere from a year to 10 years. And so you never know, you can only resolve that file when it's ready. So you just don't know what money's going to be coming in. So we had to go to a bank and they, what's your track record on earning money? Well, we don't have one, other than we had to go back and pull out all the financials from the old firm and show, over time what we'd been able to produce. So
that comment really dovetails so well what Duncan was just saying about having a plan. We're going to wind it up. I feel like we're just getting going, to be honest with you. I think we're just starting to get raw and get vulnerable. I think we might have these guys on again next time. I have a Charles Dickens quote to wind things up, and I just have to go here. If there are no bad people, there would be no good lawyers. These gentlemen transcend good. They transcend community. They have brought us true innovation. Today on the show, true vulnerability. I'm humbled. I'm ready to go out and innovate. Are you? Go do it. Thanks. See you next time. Ask An Innovator.